Hello, hello, hello. I'm hoping this is working. Streamlabs is being a bit at the moment. It tried to update and then didn't update and then did update. I don't know what went on. Restart my computer and everything. And I can't type in the chat on Streamlabs. I've got to go direct into Twitch. Yay! But most of you are probably watching on YouTube, so it doesn't matter anything. Anyway, hello, welcome back to me, Drunken Storyteller. I'm actually drinking today. Bad beer. Today we are taking Monday Night Moods, and we are now on the last part of Paradise Lost. This will be the last episode for Paradise Lost. Part 2 of Book 10. We ended on a very kind of Lord of the Rings thing at the end of last episode. We shall carry on with that today. We shall finish it. So we're having a little drinky because end of the story, bit of celebration. It's taken me quite a long time to read this. I think we're now about 15 episodes, so about 15 hours of reading, something like that. It's quite long. And also I've just handed in 2 papers to co-authors for work. So I'm feeling quite happy. These have been the bane of my existence for about a year. And they are gone and done, and yay. So that's that. So they are done. So a little bit of celebration. It's a short week today. We've got Labor Day on Wednesday. So that should be fun. Day off. And I'm going to do some writing. I'm going to write some vests and stuff for Tom. That should be fun. Anyway, yes, so as I said, we are reading the last part of Paradise Lost, a poem in 10 books by John Milton. And we did end with a very Lord of the Rings-esque sentence. It goes, and whether here the race of man will end. And from there, we shall continue. So grab yourself a drink, sit back, and enjoy the tale. To whom thus Michael replied, those whom thou sawest in triumph and luxurious wealth are there, first seen in acts of prowess eminent and great exploits, but of true virtue void, who having spilt much blood and done much waste, subduing nations and achieved thereby fame in the world, high titles and rich prey, shall change their course to pleasure, ease, and sloth, surfeit and lust, till wantonness and pride raise out of friendship hostile deeds in peace. The conquered also and enslaved by war shall with their freedom lost all virtue lose in fear of God, from whom their piety feigned in sharp contrast of battle found no aid against invaders, therefore cold in zeal thenceforth shall practice how to live secure, worldly or dissolute, on what their Lord shall leave them to endure, for the earth shall bear more than enough, that temperance may be tried. So all shall turn degenerate, all depraved, justice and temperance, truth and faith forgot. One man except, the only son of light in a dark age, against example, against allurement, custom, and a world offended, fearless of reproach and scorn, all violence, he of their wicked ways shall them admonish, and before them set the paths of righteousness. How much more safe and full of peace, denouncing wrath to come on their impotence, and shall return of them derided, but of God observed, the one just man alive, by his command shall build a wondrous ark, as thou behelpst to save him and household from amidst a world devout to universal wrack. No sooner he with them man and beast select for all life shall in the ark be lodged and sheltered round, but all the cataracts of heaven set open on earth shall power rain day and night. All fountains of the deep broke up shall heave the ocean to usurp beyond all bounds, till inundation rise, and above the highest hills, then shall the mount of paradise by might of waves be moved, out of this place pushed by the horn flowed, with all his verdure spoiled, and trees adrift, down the great river to the opening gulf, and there take root and land and salt bear and there take root and land, salt bear and bear, the haunt of seals and orcs, the sea mews clang, to teach thee that God attributes to place no sanctity, if none be thither brought by men who there frequent or therein dwell. And now what further shall ensue? Behold, he looked, and saw the ark hull on the fluid, which now abated, for the clouds were fled, driven by a keen north wind, the blowing dry wrinkle the face of deluge, and decayed, and the clear sun on his wide watery glass gazed hot, and of the fresh wave largely drew, as after thirst, which made their flowing shrink from standing lake to tripping ebb, that stole with soft foot towards the deep, who now had stopped his sluices, as the heaven his windows shut. The ark no more now floats, but seems on ground, fast on top of some high mountain fixed. And now the tops of hills as rocks appear with clamour, thence the rapid currents drive towards the retreating sea their furious tide. Forthwith out the ark a raven flies, and after him the surer messenger, a dove sent forth once again to spy green tree or ground whereon his foot may light. The second time returning, in his bill an olive leaf he brings, pacific sign. Anon dry ground appears, and from his ark the ancient sire descends, with all his train. Then with uplifted hands and eyes devout, grateful to heaven, over his heads behold a dewy cloud, and in the cloud a bow conspicuous with three lifted colours gay, betokening peace from God and covenant new, whereat the heart of Adam, erst so sad, greatly rejoiced, and thus his joy broke forth. O thou that future things canst represent, at present heavenly instructor, I revive at this last sight, assured that man shall live, with all the creatures and their seed preserve. Far less I now lament the one whole world of wicked sons destroyed, then I rejoice, for one man found so perfect and so just that God vouchsafed to raise another world from him, and all his anger to forget. But say, what mean these coloured streaks in heaven, descended as the bow of God appeased? Or serve they as a flory verge to bind the fluid skirts of that same watery cloud, lest it again dissolve and shower the earth? To whom the archangel dexterously thus amest: so willingly doth God remit his ire, though late repenting him of man deprived, grieved at his heart, when looking down he saw the whole earth filled with violence, and all flesh corrupting each their way. Yet those removed, such grace shall one just man find in his sight, that he relents not to blot out mankind, and make a covenant never to destroy the earth again by flood, nor let the sea surpass his bounds, nor rain to drown the world with man therein or beast. But when he brings over the earth a cloud, will therein set his triple-coloured bow, whereon to look and call to mind his covenant day and night. Seed time and harvest, heat and hoary frost shall hold their course, till fire purge all things new, both heaven and earth, wherein the just shall dwell. Thou hast seen one world begin and end, and man as from a second stock proceed. Much thou hast yet to see, but I perceive thy mortal sight to fail. Objects divine must needs impair and weary human sense. Henceforth what is to come I will relate. Thou therefore give due audience and attend this second souse of men, while yet but few, and while the dread of judgment past remains fresh in their minds. Shh, with your squeakiness. That worked. Henceforth what is to come I will relate. Though therefore give due audience and attend the second sorrows of men, while yet but few, and while the dread of judgment past remains fresh in their minds, fearing the deity, with some regard to what is just and right, shall lead their lives and multiply apace, labouring the soil and reaping plenteous crop, corn, wine, and oil, and from the herd or flock, oft sacrificing bullock, lamb, or kid, while large wine offerings poured and sacred feasts shall open their days in joy unblamed, and dwell long time in peace by families and tribes, under paternal rule, till one shall rise, of proud ambitious heart, who not content with fair equality, fraternal state, with arrogant dominion undeserved over his brethren, and quite dispossess, concord the law of nature from the earth, hunting, and men, not beasts, shall be his game, with war and hostile snares, such as refuse subjection to his empire tyrannous. A mighty hunter thence he shall be styled before the Lord, and in despite, as in despite of heaven, or from heaven claiming second sovereignty, and from rebellion shall derive his name. Though of rebellion others he accuse, he with a crew, whom like ambition joins, with him or under him to tyrannize, marching from Eden back towards the west, shall find the plain wherein a black bituminous gurge boils out from underground, the mouth of hell, of brick, and of that stuff they cast to build a city and tower, whose top may reach to heaven and get themselves a name, least far dispersed in foreign lands their memory be lost, regardless whether good or evil fame. But God, who oft descends to visit men unseen, and through their habitation walks to mark their doings, them beholding soon comes down to see their city, ere the tower obstructs heaven's towers, and in derision sets upon their tongues a various spirit to raise quiet out their native language, and instead to sow a jangling noise of words unknown. Forthwith a hideous gabble rises loud among the builders, each to other calls not understood, till hoarse and all in rage as mocked they storm, great laughter was in heaven, and looking down to see the hubbub strange and hear the din, thus was the building left ridiculous, and the work confusion named. Whereto thus Adam fatherly displeased, execrable son so to aspire, above his brethren to himself affirming authority usurped, from God not given, he gave as only over beast, fish, fowl, dominion absolute, the right we hold by his donation, but man over men he made not lord, such title to himself reserving, human left from human free, but this usurper his encroachment proud stays not on man, to God his tower intends siege and defiance. Wretched man, what food will he convey up thither to sustain himself and his rash army? Where in thin air above the clouds will pine his entrails gross, and famish him of breath, if not of bread? To whom thus Michael, justly thou abhorrest that son, who on the quiet state of men such trouble brought, affecting to subdue rational liberty, yet know withal, since thy original lapse, true liberty is lost, which always with right reason dwells, twinned, and from her hath no individual being. Reason in men obscured, or not obeyed, immediately inordinate desires and upstart passions catch the government from reason, and to servitude reduce men, till then free. Therefore, since he permits within himself unworthy powers to reign over free reason, God in judgment thus just subjects him from without to violent lords, who oft as undeservedly enthrall his outward freedom. Tyranny must be, though to the tyrant there be no excuse. Yet sometimes nations will decline so long from virtue, which is reason that no wrong, but justice and some fatal curse annexed deprives them of their outward liberty. their inward lost. Witness the irreverent son of him who built the ark, who for the shame done to his father heard this heavy curse, servant of servants, on his virtuous race. Thus will this latter, as the former world, still tend from bad to worse, till God at last, wearied with their iniquities, withdraw his presence from among them, and avert his holy eyes, resolving from thenceforth to lead them to their own polluted ways, and one peculiar nation to select from all the rest, of whom to be invoked, a nation from one faithful man to spring, him on this side Euphrates yet residing, bred up in idol worship. O that men, canst thou believe, should be so stupid grown, while yet the patriarch lived who scraped the flood, as to forsake the living God, and fall to worship their own work in wood and stone for gods? Yet him God the Most High vouchsafes to call by vision from his father's house, his kindred and false gods into the land which he will shew him, and from him will raise a mighty nation, and upon him shower his benediction so, that in his seed all nations shall be blessed. He straight obeys, not knowing to what land, yet firm believes. I see him, but thou canst not. With what faith he leaves his gods, his friends, and native soil, of Chaldea, passing now the ford to Haran. After him the cumbrous train of herds and flocks, a numerous servitude, not wandering poor, but thrusting all his wealth with God, who called him in a land unknown, Canaan. He now attains. I see his tents pitched about Shechem, and the neighbouring plain of Moreb. There be promise he receives, gift to his progeny of all that land, from Hamath northward to the desert south. Things by their names I call, though yet unnamed. From Hermon east to the great western sea, Mount Hermon yonder sea, each place behold in prospect, as I point them. On the shore Mount Carmel, here the double-founted stream Jordan, true limit eastward, and his sons shall dwell to Senir. That long ridge of hills, this ponder, that all nations of the earth shall in his seed be blessed. I just turned away, and I've now lost myself. By that seed is meant thy great deceiver, who shall bruise the serpent's head, whereof thee anon plainlier shall be revealed. Is patriarch blessed, whom faithful Abraham due time shall call the son, and of his son a grandchild leaves, like him in faith, in wisdom and renown. The grandchild, with 12 sons increased, departs from Canaan to a land hereafter called Egypt, divided by the river Nile. See where it flows, disgorging its 7 mouths into the sea. To sojourn in that land he comes invited to a younger son in time of death, a son whose worthy deeds raise him to the second in that realm of Pharaoh. There he dies, and leaves his race growing into a nation, and now grown suspected to a sequent king, who seeks to stop their overgrowth, as inmate guests too numerous, whence of guests he makes them slaves inhospitably, and kills their infant males, till by 2 brethren, those 2 brethren call Moses and Aaron, sent from God to claim his people from enthrallment, they return with glory and spoil back to the promised land. But first the lawless tyrant who denies to know their God, or message to regard, must compelled by signs and judgments dire, who blood ushered the rivers must be turned frogs, lice and flies, must all his palace fill with loath intrusion, and fill all the land. His cattle must of rot and murrain die, botchers and blains must all his flesh emboss, and all his people thunder mixed with hail, hail mixed with fire, must rend the Egyptian sky, and wheel on the earth, devouring where it rolls. What if devours not? herb or fruit, or grain, a darksome cloud of locusts swarming down must eat, and on the ground leave nothing green. Darkness must overshadow all his bounds, palpable darkness, and blot out 3 days, lest with one midnight stroke all the firstborn of Egypt must lie dead. Then, with 10 wounds this river dragon tamed at length submits to his sojourners depart, and oft humbles his stubborn heart. But still as ice morn hardened after Thor, till in his rage pursuing, whom he late dismissed, the sea swallows him with his host. But them let past, as on dark dry land between two crystal walls, awed by the rod of Moses, so to stand divided, till his rescued gain their shore. Such wondrous power God to his saint will lend, though present in his angel, who shall go before them in a cloud and pillar of fire, to guide them in their journey and remove behind them, while the obdurate king pursues. All night he will pursue, but his approach darkness defends between till morning watch. Then through the fiery pillar and the cloud God looking forth will trouble all his host, and craze their chariot wheels. When he command Moses once more, his potent rod extends over the sea his rod obeys, and their embattled ranks the waves return, and overwhelm the war. The race elect safe towards Canaan, from the shore advanced through the wild desert, not the readiest way, lest entering on the Canaanite alarmed, war terrify them inexpert, and fear return them back to Egypt. Choosing rather inglorious life with servitude, for life to nobly noble is more sweet untrained in arms, where rashness leads not on. This also shall they gain by their delay, in their wide wilderness there they shall found their government, and the great senate choose through the 12 tribes to rule by laws ordained. God from the mount of Sinai, whose grey top shall tremble, he descending will himself in thunder, lightning, and loud trumpet sound, ordain them laws, part such as appertain to civil justice, part religious rites of sacrifice, informing them by types and shadows of that destined seed to bruise the serpent, by what means he shall achieve mankind's deliverance. But the voice of God to mortal ear is dreadful. They beseech that Moses might report to them his will, and terror cease. He grants them their desire, instructed that to God is no access without mediator, whose high office now Moses is in figure bears, to introduce one greater, of whose days he shall foretell, and all the prophets in their age the times of the great Messiah shall sing. Thus laws and rights established, such delight hath God in men obedient to his will, that he vouchsafes among them to set up his tabernacle, the Holy One, with mortal men to dwell. By his prescript a sanctuary is framed of cedar, overlaid with gold, therein an ark, and in the ark his testimony, the records of his covenant. Over these a mercy seat of gold between the wings of 2 bright cherubim. Before him burn 7 lamps as in a zodiac representing the heavenly fires. Over the tent a cloud shall rest by day, a fiery gleam by night, save when they journey, and at length they come, conducted by his angel to the land promised to Abraham and his seed. The rest were long to tell, how many battles fought, how many kings destroyed and kingdoms won, or how the sun shall amid heaven stand still, a day entire and night's due course adjourn. Man's voice commanding, sun in Gideon stand, and thou moon in the vale of Aelon, till Israel overcome, so call the third from Abraham, son of Isaac, and from him his whole descent. Thus shall Canaan win. Here Adam interposed. O sent from heaven, enlightener of my darkness, gracious things thou hast revealed. Those chiefly which overcome, just Abraham and his seed. Now first I find mine eyes true opening, and my heart much eased. erstwhile perplexed with thoughts, what would become of me and all mankind? But now I see his day, in whom all nations shall be blessed, favour unmerited by me, who sought forbidden knowledge by forbidden means. This yet I apprehend not. Why to those among whom God will deign to dwell on earth, so many and various laws are given, so many laws argue, so many sins among them? How can God with such reside? To whom thus Michael, doubt, but doubt not but that sin will reign among them, as of thee begot, and therefore was laws given to them to evince their natural pravity, by stirring up sin against law to fight, that when they see law can discover sin, but not remove, save by those shadowy expiations weak, the blood of bulls and goats, they may conclude some blood more precious must be paid for man, just for unjust, that in such righteousness to them by faith imputed, they may find justification toward God and peace of conscience, which the law by ceremonies cannot appease, nor man the mortal part perform, and not performing cannot live. So law appears imperfect, but given with purpose to resign them to full time, up to a better covenant, disciplined from shadowy types to truth, from flesh to spirit, from imposition of strict laws to free acceptance of large grace, from servile fear to filial, works of law to works of faith, and therefore shall not Moses, though of God highly beloved, being but the minister of law, his people into Canaan lead, but Joshua, who from the Gentiles Jesus called, his name and office bearing, who shall quell the adversary serpent, and bring back through the world's wilderness long wandered man, safe to eternal paradise of rest? Meanwhile they in their earthly Canaan placed, long time shall dwell and prosper, but when sins national interrupt their public peace, provoking God to raise them enemies, from whom as oft he serves them penitent, but judges first, then under kings, of whom the second, both for piety, renowned and puissant deeds, a promise shall receive, irrevocable, that his regal throne for ever shall endure. The like shall sing all prophecy, that of the royal stock of David. So I name this king, me, no, I'm not a king, shall rise, a son, the woman's seed to thee foretold to Abraham, as in whom shall trust all nations, and to kings foretold, of kings the last, for of his reign shall be no end. But first a long succession must ensure, and his next son for wealth and wisdom famed, the clouded ark of God, till then intense wandering, shall in glorious temple enshrine such follow him as shall be registered, part good, part bad, or part good, part bad, of bad the longer scowl, whose foul idolatries and other faults hept to the popular sum, will so incense God as to leave them, and expose their land, their city, his temple, and his holy ark, and with this sacred things a scorn and prey to that proud city whose high walls thou sawest left in confusion. Babylon thence called, there in captivity he lets them dwell the space of 70 years, and then brings them back. Remembering mercy and his covenant sworn to David, established as the days of heaven, returned from Babylon to leave by leave of kings, their lords, whom God disposed, the house of God, they first re-edify, and for a while in mean estate live moderate, till grown in wealth and multitude, factitious they grow. But first among the priests dissension springs, men who attend the altar, and should most endeavour peace, their strife population brings upon the temple itself. At last they seize the sceptre, and regard not David's son, then loose it to a stranger, not the true anointed King Messiah might be born, bard of his right, yet at his birth a star, and seen before in heaven proclaims his come, and guides the eastern sages who inquire his place, to offer incense, myrrh, and gold. His place of birth the solemn angel tells to simple shepherds, keeping watch by night. They gladly tie their haste, and by a choir of squadroned angels hear his carols sung. A virgin is his mother, but his sire the power of the Most High. He shall ascend the throne hereditary, and bound his reign with earth's wide bounds. His glory with the heavens he ceased, discerning Adam with such joy surcharged, as he had like grief been dewed in tears, without the vent of words, which these breathed the prophet of glad tidings. Finisher of utmost hope, now clear I understand what oft my steadiest thoughts have searched in vain, why our great expectation should be called the seed of woman. Virgin Mother, hail, high in the love of heaven, yet from my loins thou shalt proceed, and from thy womb the Son of God Most High. So God with man unites, needs must the serpent now his capital bruise, except with mortal pain. Say where and when their fight, what stroke shall bruise the victor's heel, to whom thus Michael, dream not of their fight, as of a jewel, or the local wounds of head or heel. Not therefore joined the Son, manhood to Godhead, with more strength to foil thy enemy, nor so is overcome Satan, whose fall from heaven a deadlier bruise disabled not to give thee thy death's wound, which he who overcomes thy Saviour shall recur, not by destroying Satan, but his works in thee and in thy seed. Nor can this be but by fulfilling that which thou didst want, obedience in the law of God imposed on penalty of death, and suffering the penalty of thy transgression due, and due to theirs which out of thine will grow. So only can high justice rest apaid. The law of God exact he shall fulfill, both by obedience and by love. Though love alone fulfill the law, thy punishment he shall endure by coming in the flesh, to reproachful life and cursed death, proclaiming life to all who shall believe in his redemption, and that his obedience imputed becomes theirs by faith, his merits to save them, not their own. Though legal works, for this he shall live hated, be blasphemed, seized on by force, judged unto death, condemned as shameful and accursed, nailed to the cross by his own nation, slain for bringing life, but to the cross he nails thy enemies, the law that is against thee, and the sins of all mankind, with him they're crucified, never to hurt them more who rightly trust in this his satisfaction. So he dies, but soon revives. Death over him has no power, shall long suit you there. Death over him no power shall long usurp, ere the third dawning light return. The stars of morn shall see him rise out of his grave, fresh as the dawning light thy ransom paid, which man from death redeems his death for men. As many as offered life neglect not, and the benefit embrace by faith, not void of works. This godlike act annuls thy doom, the death thou should have died, in sin for ever lost from life. This act shall bruise the head of Satan, crush his strength, defeating sin and death. His two main arms, and fix far deeper in his head their strings, than temporal death shall bruise the victor's heel. Of theirs whom he redeems a death-like sleep, a gentle wafting to immortal life. Not after resurrection shall he stay, long on earth, uncertain times to appear to his disciples. Men who in his life still followed him, to them shall leave in change, to teach all nations of what of him they learned, and his salvation. Them who shall believe, baptizing in the profulent stream, the sign of washing them from guilt of sin to life pure, and in mind prepared, if so befall for death, like that which the Redeemer did. All nations they shall teach, For from that day not only to sons of Abraham's loins salvation shall be preached, but to the sons of Abraham's faith, wherever through the world, so in his seed all nations shall be blessed. Then to the heaven of heavens he shall ascend with victory, triumphing through the air over his foes and thine. There shall surprise the serpent, prince of air, and drag in chains through all his realm, and there confounded leave. Then enter into glory and resume his seat at God's right hand side, exalted high above all names in heaven, and thence shall come. With this world's dissolution shall be ripe, with glory and power to judge both quick and dead, to judge the unfaithful dead, but to reward his faithful, and receive them into bliss, whether in heaven or earth. For then that earth shall be paradise, far happier place than this of Eden, and far happier days. So spake the archangel Michael, then paused as at the world's great period, and our sire, replete with joy and wonder, thus replied. O goodness infinite, goodness immense, that all this good of evil shall produce, and evil turn to good, more wonderful than that which by creation first brought forth light out of darkness. Full of doubt I stand, whether I should repent me now of sin, by me done and occasioned, or rejoice much more. That much more good thereof shall spring, to God more glory, more good will to men. From God and over wrath grace shall abound. But say, if our deliverer up to heaven must descend, what will betide the few, his faithful, left among the unfaithful herd, the enemies of truth? Who then shall guide his people who defend? Will they not deal wars with his followers then with him they dealt? Be sure they will, said the angel. But from heaven he to his own comforter will send the promise of the Father, who shall dwell his spirit within them, and the law of faith working through love upon their hearts shall write, to guide them in all truth, and also arm with spiritual armor, able to resist Satan's assault and quench his fiery darts. What man can do against them, not afraid, though to the death against such cruelties with inward consolations recompect, and oft supported so as shall amaze their proudest persecutors? For the Spirit, proud first on his apostles, whom he sends to evangelize the nations, and then on all baptized shall them with wondrous gifts endue, to speak all tongues and do all miracles, and did their Lord before them. Thus they win great numbers of each nation to receive with joy the tidings brought from heaven. At length their ministries performed and race well run, their doctrine and their story written left, they die. But in their room, as they forewarned, wolves shall succeed for teachers, grievous wolves, who all the sacred mysteries of heaven to their own vile advantage shall turn, of lucrous and ambition, and the truth with superstition and traditions taint, left only in those written records pure, though not but by the Spirit understood. Then shall they seek to avail themselves of names, places, and titles, and with these to join secular powers, though feigning still to act by spiritual, to themselves appropriating the Spirit of God, promised alike and given to all believers. And from the pretense spiritual laws by carnal power shall force on every conscience, laws which none shall find left them to herald, or what the Spirit within shall of the heart engrave. What will they then but force the Spirit of grace itself, and bind his consort liberty? What but unbuild his living temples, built by faith to stand, their own faith, not another's? For on earth, who against faith and conscience can be heard infallible? Yet many will pursue, whence heavy persecution shall rise on all who in the worship persevere of spirit and truth. The rest, far greater part, will deem in outward rites and spacious forms religion satisfied. Truth shall retire, bestruck, and slanderous darts and works of faith rarely be found. So shall the world go on, to good malignant, to bad omens benign, under her own weight groaning, till the day appear of respiration to the just, and vengeance to the wicked, at return of him so lately promised to thy aid, the woman's seed obscurely then foretold. Now amplify and known thy Saviour and thy Lord, last in the clouds from heaven to be revealed, in glory of the Father to dissolve Satan with his perverted world, then raise from the conflagrant mass, purged and refined, new heavens, new earth, ages of endless date founded in righteousness and peace and love, to bring forth fruits, joy, and eternal bliss. He ended. And thus Adam last replied, how soon hath thy prediction, sere blessed, measured this transient world, the race of time, till time stand fixed. Beyond is all abyss eternity, whose end no eye can reach. Greatly instructed, I shall hence depart, greatly in peace of thought, and have my fill of knowledge. What this vessel can continue, beyond which was my folly to aspire. Henceforth I learn that to obey is best, and love with fear the only God, to walk in his presence, ever to observe his providence, and on him sole depend, merciful over his works, with good still overcoming evil, and by small accomplishing things, by things deemed weak, subverting worldly strong and worldly wise, by simply meek, the suffering for truth's sake is fortitude to highest victory, and to the faithful death the gate of life. Taught this by his example, whom I now acknowledge my Redeemer ever blessed, to whom thus also the angel last replied, this having learned thou hast attained the sum of wisdom, hope no higher, though all the stars thou knewest by name, and all the ethereal powers, all secrets of the deep, all nature's works of God in heaven, air, earth, or sea, and all the riches in the world enjoyst, and all the rule, one empire. Only add deeds to their knowledge answerable, add faith and virtue, patience, temperaments, add love, by name to come called charity, the soul of all the rest. Then wilt thou not be loath to leave this paradise, but shalt possess a paradise within thee, happier far. Let us descend now, therefore, from this top of speculation, for the hour precise exacts our parting hence, and see the guards by me encamped on yonder hill, accept their motion at those front a flaming sword. In signal of remove, waves fiercely around, we may no longer stay. Go, waken Eve. Her also I with gentle dreams have calmed, portending good, and all her spirits composed to meek submission. Thou, at season fit, let her with thee partake what thou hast heard, chiefly what may concern her faith to know, the great deliverance by her seed to come, for by the woman's seed on all mankind, that ye may live, which will be many days, both in one faith unanimous, though said, will cause for evil's pest, yet much more cheered with meditation on the happier end. He ended, and they both descend the hill. Descended Adam to the bower where Eve lay sleeping round before, but found her wait, and thus with words not sad she him received, whence thou returnest, and whither wentst. I know, for God is also in sleep, and dreams advised, which he hath sent propitious some great good presaging, since with sorrow and harsh distress wearied I fell asleep, but now lead on, in me is no delay, with thee to go, is to stay here without there here to stay, is to go hence unwilling, thou to me art all things under heaven, all places thou, who for my wilful crime art banished hence. This further consolation yet secure I carry hence, though all by me is lost. Such favour I unworthy am vouchsafed. By me the promised seed shall all restore. So spake our mother Eve. And Adam heard, well pleased, but answered not, For now too nigh the angels stood, and from the other hill to their fixed station, all in bright array the cherubim descended. On the ground gliding meteors, as evening mist risen from a river over the marshes glide, and gathers ground fast as the labourers heal, homeward returning. High in front advanced the brandished sword of God, before them blazed fierce as a comet, which, with torrid heat and vapour as the Libyan air dust, began to parch that temperate clime, whereat in either hand the hastening angel caught our lingering parents, and to the eastern gate let them direct, and down the cliff as fast to the subjected plain, then disappeared. They looked back, all the eastern side beheld of paradise, so late their happy seat, waved over by that flaming brand, the gate with dreadful faces thronged and fiery arms. Some natural tears they dropped, but wiped them soon. The world was all before them, where to choose their place of rest, and Providence their guide, they hand in hand with wandering steps and slow, through Eden took their solitary way. The end. There we go. We have finished Paradise Lost. A poem in 10 books and 15, 16 episodes of me reading it. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to take a few Mondays off, maybe one or two, while I actually try and do some of the podcast episodes. I've got 2 ideas that I want to do. One's going to be about plants, so that should be fun. So yeah, I will come back at some point, and I'm probably going to do the Divine Comedy. Probably start with the fun one, Inferno, then probably have another break and do something else. They're probably quite long as well. They're like 200 odd pages, and they're not poems, they're books. Might do some individual stories as well. I want to do Wendigo at some point, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's that. Interesting prophecies at the end of that one that ring a little true, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, so Paradise Lost, basically the Bible, very, very quickly, to some extent. Michael telling Adam, yeah, you did wrong, but eventually, after destroying the world a few times, you'll come good, possibly. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, going to take some breaks, but you can find the links to everything, like where I got this version from Gutenberg Press, because Gutenberg Press is amazing. So go check that out. You can go check my podcast out on any good podcast place, The Drunken Storyteller. And then all socials are in the links as well. And most of my socials at the moment are me pissing around with art. I put a demon up a couple of days ago. It's a fun little thing. Very Morkberg. So anyway. Yes, Ben, you know. Shut up. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to go stick my head in an ice tub because my head is very, very hot. And you can tell my ears have gone bright red. My head is very, very hot. So I shall leave you all now. Adieu, and I shall be back sometime soon with a new tale for some more Monday Night Moons. I bid you adieu. Bye-bye. Helps if I use the right mouse pad. Bye.